You've imagined it. Now what? Now what do you do? I want to share with you this client's amazing, very quick success story on how she became unblocked by her SP, her desires to be with her SP. And after our first session, it happened very quickly. And then we had another session yesterday, and I want to share with you what she came with questions about that after. And many of you want to know, now what? Now what I do? You are imagining your wish fulfilled. You have imagined it, you've affirmed it, and now what? This is where people want an answer after, and I want to share with you now what. Welcome, my name is Rose, and welcome to The Rosey Life, where we help you free your mind and follow your heart so you live a life that you love. If you are interested in working one-on-one with me or joining the Rosey Life course and community, go to RoseyLife.com. Also, November 15th, I begin my first ever 6-month platinum coaching program that I've never done before, and I'm not sure if I'll ever do it again. We'll see. So if you're interested in any of that, go to RoseyLife.com. All right. Okay. So I had such an amazing session with this client and this week, and she shared with it. I did one session with her, and we talked about her desires. And one of her desires was to be with her person, and she wants a relationship with him. And I want to share with you a little bit with her permission. She gave me permission to talk about this and what happened, because I think a lot of you might experience this. And this is really going to answer the now what. Even if you don't have movement yet, just because you don't see it doesn't mean the movement's not there. And I really want you guys all to get a sense that there is always movement, even when you can't see it. All right. So her desire is in a relationship with her SP. She had other desires too, but this is one of them. And the conditions that she showed up with in the first session was that they broke up, that there's a third party, and that she was blocked. And then she blocked him, actually. And the reason is because she, out of fear, she says, I can't handle seeing anything. Like, she didn't want to run into any possible pictures of him with another girl. And she says, I just can't handle it. She says, I couldn't handle it. And so that right there, for any of you that are experiencing something similar, like you can't handle looking at your bank account, you can't handle looking at the conditions, and you try to avoid them, and you try to go into some little bubble until your manifestation pops out, it's just going to keep you in waiting. And all you're doing is you're saying that the 3D is deciding for you, and it is doing what it wants on its own. That's what you're doing when you're hiding. You're saying that the 3D has the power to decide for you, and it can spook you and show you things that you don't want to see. Right there, you avoiding it, you're saying to the 3D what you want to, what you're afraid of seeing, and chances are you'll probably see it. Maybe not, right? But do you see what you're doing? You're giving your power away to the conditions. You're like afraid of feeling afraid, or you're afraid of feeling lost, or you're afraid of feeling like you're not going to get what you want. You're afraid of feeling it instead of just allowing yourself to observe the feeling of afraid of not getting what you want, or allowing yourself to observe that fear and look at it and remember that that's a feeling and that's a fear. That's not a fact. You're the fact. Because whatever you declare and choose and assume, that is the fact, not the feelings, not the fears, not the doubts. Okay. So then that was in our first session, she said her desire is we are together. All right. And so this is what we talked about. And her action that she took is she unblocked him. Why? Because we talked about, if you're together, would you block him? And she said, no. And so she says, but I'm afraid of what I see. And we talked about this. And so she decided on her own, she said, to unblock him. And she says, you know what? I'm just not going to even bother looking at social media or checking on it. I'm just going to unblock him and I'm going to leave everything alone. I'm just going to leave it as it is and let my higher self do what it's got to do, and trust that no matter what I feel or see or think, that it is all part of what my unfolding. And so what happened is she unblocked him, and then she was on Instagram and just scrolling, not because she tried, but it was just instinctual. She said it was really inspired action, because she said, I just didn't even like realize I was doing it. And she scrolls and starts seeing posts of her SP, not of another person, but of her SP, of stuff that he posts. And so he unblocked her right away. And she says, think about it, Rose. She says, he had to go in and check to see if I was blocking him still in order for him to be able to unblock me, to add me to follow me again. She said, so he had to work for it, Rose. And I said, I know. And so he unblocked her the same day. And not only that, but she said this all happened like within 24 hours after our session. She said it was incredible. She says her and her friends went out, and she said strangers were walking up to her and like flirting with her and asking her out, and all of this attention. And the friend that she was with, she's like, I don't want to go out with you anymore. She says, you get all the attention. She's like, what is happening? She's like, what is happening? And her face was so lit up from ear to ear. She's just like, it's just amazing. She said, how everything changed so fast. And I said, I know. So then this, in her second session, right, we talked about what happened, but then this is where a lot of you may do, okay? She says, what do I do now? Now what do I do? So now she has this movement, right? Her desire is still full relationship, and it's unfolding, okay? So she says, what do I do now? And she said her friends, look how fast this is happening, okay? And then she starts questioning things, and I want to show you what that looks like. She says, what do I do now? Friends telling me different things. Friends telling me different things. I want you to look at your friends, your family, your neighbors as your thoughts, as different thoughts happening within you. I know that they're people, and yes, they are, but what they are reflections of thoughts that you are having within. And this is what I talked to her about. So yes, they're people. Yes, they're really talking to you, but they're reflections of thoughts. They're talking as reflection of your thoughts. And that's why there's a variety. For example, one of her friends says, don't call him and let him come to you. That was one thought, one friend. The other friend or thought says, call him and ask him why he's unblocking you. Ask him what he wants. Do you see? And then I asked her, I said, if you were to call him, I said, what would you say? And she says, I would want to know why he unblocked me. Do you see how fast she forgot who she is and why it happened? So I asked her and I said, why do you want to know if he unblocked you? And the real reason is because she wants to hear from him that he wants her, that he wants to be with her. That was her intention behind asking that question. And I said, well, who's in charge of answering that question, him or you? And it took her a few times, and she kept saying, she says, well, she was a little confused. She had forgotten her power there for a second. Do you see? So it took her a few times to remember, because I said so, because I am with him. So the intention behind her wanting to ask him why he unblocked her is to know that he wants to be with her. And I asked, who's deciding that? And she finally said, oh, I am. I said, so what exactly is it that you want to ask him now? And she said, well, I don't. I already know we're together. I said, so whether you call him or you don't call him, it doesn't matter. I said, remember, who's calling the shots here? Are you deciding? Are you calling him from that state that you are with him? Because if you were, you wouldn't ask him why he unblocked you. You would be talking about a million other things. I said, and if you don't, you're still with him. So either way, it doesn't matter. But look at the intention behind what she was going to do. So don't lose your focus. This is my message for y'all today. Don't lose your focus on the end because of 3D conditions shuffling around, because that's all that's happening. Unfolding, the bridge, whatever you want to call it, right? Don't lose your focus just because your things are shuffling around, or don't lose your focus because it looks like nothing's shuffling around. Both of them, because many times, you guys, I've manifested things and it looked like crickets, like nada, like nothing, impossible, like it's dead zone, and poof, everything just happens. No visible movement that I picked up on. And sometimes I don't pick up on it. And sometimes I do pick up on it. Sometimes like, oh, hell yeah, this is so happening. Do you see? But that's, so no movement or movement is not evidence that I have what I desire to be. I am the evidence and the proof that I am who I desire to be. Put more faith in that than in movement, than in what's happening or not happening. Same thing with feelings. Feelings are not evidence that you have it, or feelings are not evidence that you don't have it. Many of you equate negative feelings to you're not doing it right, you're not going to get it, and you're stuck in that old reality. Or positive feelings of you're powerful, that you are God, and that you do get what you want, and that it is happening. Neither of those are evidence that you are who you say you are. Positive feelings feel amazing. Yeah, they're good. They feel good. But don't use feelings or don't use movement as evidence or a lack of evidence that you are who you are. Because when you do that, it's like you're like that. What is that? Like, is it a dog or a horse that goes around a horse track chasing a carrot and you never catch it? Because you're chasing feelings or chasing evidence, or you're trying, or movement, you're chasing movement or you're chasing feelings, thinking that you got to keep up with the feelings or keep up with movement, or you got to keep looking for movement. Do you see? Instead, say, you know what? I don't need that. I don't need the evidence. I don't need the freaking movement. I am who I say I am. Movement, no movement, feelings, no feelings. I am what I say I am. Do you see? So, and the most powerful spiritual teacher that really spilled this out was Neville Goddard, and the way in that conviction that we hear so much about, right? And Neville Goddard says, for life makes no mistakes and always gives man that which man first gives himself. So life, so your 3D, it makes no mistakes. It is zero mistakes. It only can show you, reveal to you what you have first given to yourself within. In other words, not just saying it, but you are being that person. You are assuming you're that person. No matter what movement or no movement, no matter what feelings or no feelings, you have given it to yourself. You have already done that act within. And then it says, and this is in James 1, it says, be doers of the word. And this is from a Neville Goddard lecture. Okay, he quotes James 1, he says, be doers of the word, not just hearers only. He who perseveres will be blessed. So he's saying be doers of the word. It doesn't mean go out and take action. It doesn't mean that you're going to go force it. Will you be inspired to take action? Yes. But the number one and only important thing is for you to do the act within, for you to do, in other words, to persist in being that person that you say you are within, not out here. You're persisting. Those who persevere will be blessed. In other words, you will see it because you persevered. Now, a lot of times people think of the word persevere as like you've got to go through trials. you got to go through suffering. You got to go through time, and you have to endure seeing unfavorable things. You got to endure seeing the opposite. You have to endure crying spells and pain and anxiety, that you have to persevere through the tests and trials and tribulations. No, 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 no. Persevere is persisting, and I am who I said I am. That is the perseverance. That's persisting. And then, now, of course, the law of liberty is what you remember. You first remember that you are God, right? And that's the law of liberty. The law of liberty is I am free. I am free to choose whoever I want to be. I'm not stuck in any thought, feeling, condition, physical condition. I'm not stuck with an identity. I'm not stuck with anything. The law of liberty is I am free to choose whoever the hell I want to be. And then Neville says, and after that he says, you're free to change. And how do you do it? By rearranging my mind. That's the doing. That's the doing of scripture. That be doers of the word. It's the rearranging of your mind, of the structure of your mind. In other words, your body, you're not going into a different body. You're not manifesting a different version of a person, a different body of a person. It's not different. It's you are rearranging your mind and becoming the identity. You're embodying the identity of a person or a thing or a version of you that you desire to be. That's doing. Persist in mind. That's the perseverance. You're persisting in that doing of that version of you that you chose to be. But remembering that the law of liberty, that you have the freedom to choose. You have the freedom to change, to be any version of you that you want. You have the freedom to choose a version of you that's with someone, the version of you that is wealthy or poor or successful or healthy. You have the law of liberty. That is that freedom to choose anything you want. And any circumstance that you're in, you are free to walk out of it. Just like I mentioned in another video about a bird cage, and the bars were wide enough open for the bird to walk out. So many spiritual stories about you think that you're stuck. You think you're tied to an identity, but you're not. Or like that elephant who thought he was tied to the tree, but he just had a rope around his neck, but he could have ran off. But he didn't know. Do you see? That's why there's so many stories like that, because we begin to remember the law of liberty, that we are free. We are free. So, and then one of Neville's famous quotes is, he's talking about this doing, be doers, right? He says, in other words, he said, you remain in, I did it, I'm doing it, and I will continue to do it until that which I have done has perfectly externalized in my world. I love that, because he nails it right there. I did it. He's talking about be doers of the word. Be doers and be persistent and be doers of the word. He says, I did it. In other words, I assumed it. I declared it, I imagined it, I scripted it, and I will continue to do it. In other words, not continue to like affirm, and script. He's talking about the rearranging of the mind, the rearranging the structure of your mind. I will do it. I did it. I'll do it. I'm doing it, rather, and I will continue to do it until that which I've done, because once you did it in your imagination, once you assumed it, that moment, it is done. It is already unfolding. So he's saying, continue to be it. I was it, I'm being it, and I'll continue to be it until that which I have been has perfectly externalized in my world. Whatever word you want to put in there. In other words, it's not about I keep affirming, keep affirming, keep affirming, keep scripting, keep imagining. It's about you remembering that you did the thing, that you rearranged the structure of your mind, and that you are that person that you assume to be. You are it, and you'll do it until it externalizes perfectly in your world. It's not I did it and now what do I do? Do I call him and ask him why he unblocked me? No. You did it, you're doing it, and you will continue to do it until it is perfectly externalized in my world. In other words, cool, he unblocked you. Keep doing it. You don't stop and analyze all the movement. You don't stop and analyze why the opposite is happening. You don't stop and analyze and ask everyone what you should do. But remember, it's you are the one doing it, and you continue to be it until it is perfectly externalized in your world. It means no settling. You don't stop. You don't give up. You're like, oh, like another client, she's like, oh, someone told me that I'll never be able to have this career. That is movement. And you're like, that's nice. And inside, I continue to be it. I've assumed it. I am that person I said I am, no matter what. That's what Neville's saying. He's saying you persist in being it. You persist in being it until. I've made many videos talking about this, and it reminds me of that time that my son manifested. He really wanted an Xbox. And he said, I really want, not an Xbox, he wanted a PS5. And I said, then you'll have it. He said, Mom, I have like $3 in my bank account and I'm a barista at a coffee shop. And then I said, well, you know what? You don't have to worry about the how. You just have to decide that you have it. And he's like, yeah, right. And I said, watch, you will have your PlayStation. You are going to have your PS5. And then a couple weeks later, someone comes into his coffee shop and says, does anybody want to buy this PS4 for $50? Well, my son said, I would, but I have $3 in my bank account. And the guy said, here you go. You know what? Don't worry about it. You can have it for free. He was over the moon. He was so excited. He could barely talk over the phone. He was so happy. And I was so happy for him too. I was happy, but then I got off the phone and you know what I said? I did it, I'm doing it, and I'll continue to do it until it is perfectly externalized in my world. In other words, I told my higher self, thank you, but I'm going to continue to do it until he gets the PS5. That was a 4. I said 5. And guess what? A couple weeks later, or a few days later, I don't remember now, right? His dad bought him a brand new PS5. And then he called me and he says, now I have 2. And then I said, and I told my higher self, thank you. Now I can enjoy that desire fulfilled. It is perfectly externalized in my world. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to The Rosey Life. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys so, so much. And I love you guys. And you're all so freaking amazing. We're so powerful. We're so amazing, you guys. And we're just leveling up and becoming more and more aware of who we really are, that we are everything and we have it all now. I love you guys and I'll see you soon. Bye.